Good evening, thank you for listening. Life from Other Windows is about a family that unravels when the youngest son goes on a gap year trip around the world and gets caught in a tsunami. In this bit, Josh's family are at home trying to get hold of him on his mobile. His best friend, Stella, has come round to compare notes on his last known whereabouts. At this point, Stella is alone in the kitchen with Rachel, Josh's older sister. Rachel leaned on the worktop. Stella was one of Josh's friends she'd always been aware of but never thought to talk to. She knew that Diana, their mother, saw her as a good influence after the way she'd helped him buckle down to his A-levels. Before that, the pair had famously been an item, years ago in a kiddie sort of way, out of which they'd morphed into best friends, which always struck Rachel as slightly odd for a boy as patently hetero as Josh. She raked her memory for enough scraps to make conversation. So, how are you liking Leeds, isn't it? Stella took a moment to answer. It's cool, I guess. Taken me a while to settle in. I miss my mates down here, though. That struck a chord. Rachel's own university days were far from the happiest of her life. That she'd ended up making a career in academia surprised her even now. It'll be nice when Josh, said Stella. He had deferred a place at Sheffield to go travelling. Rachel had watched her brother at this very kitchen table with a ruler and a road atlas, measuring the distance between Sheffield and the cities where his friends were studying. Leeds was the nearest. Stella dropped the thread of conversation and picked up another. I hear you're getting married. Congratulations. Rachel smiled. For the best part of 24 hours, she hadn't given the wedding a thought. Oh, thanks, yeah, August. Still got it all to do. Yeah, I bet. There was no telling from the girl's deadpan demeanour whether Rachel was being humoured. Weren't strapless meringue dresses and receptions at Battersea Pump House toe-curling when you were 19? To tell the truth, it didn't do much for her and she was 32. Stella's interest seemed genuine. So, what's he like? But before Rachel could reply, the kitchen door opened. Colin, her stepfather, accompanied by the beat of Diana's feet pounding upstairs. Rachel knew the sound of her mother on a mission. Did she find something? No, said Colin, but we're flying out there anyway. His tone said it wasn't his decision. His expression said he understood. Stella winced. Rachel wondered if she'd been persuading herself that there was nothing to worry about. Decisive action had a way of breaking the spell. I'd better be going, said Stella, without looking up. If I hear anything, or if you do, you'll let me know, yeah? Of course we will, said Colin. Rachel found herself being hugged, not the hovering clinch of an air kiss or the sisterly squeeze she might expect on her wedding day if she'd had a sister, but an unembarrassed, bosom-bumping hug that made her flinch for the same reason Stella had. In the hall, Colin helped the girl into her coat. Should I go and say goodbye to Diana? He shook his head. She'll be up to her eyes in booking flights by now. Best we let her get on with it. Stella nodded, then she leaned in and hugged him too. The front door gave a closing clunk. When Colin reappeared, Rachel was rinsing mugs. Nice girl, he said. Her perfume was still with them, as light and citrus as her choice of tea. I can see why Mum wants to go, said Rachel, but is it a good idea? Didn't they say all the flights were disrupted? Her stepfather looked resigned. You know your mother. She'll swim there if we try and stop her. He took the biscuit tin from the dresser, helped himself to shortbread and left the lid off for her. Rachel found herself drying a mug on a tea towel, something she hadn't done in this house for years. The action gave her the oddest sensation of stepping outside of her life into a spotlight. It dawned on her she had no idea what she was meant to be doing today. She, who normally lived and died by her personal organiser, meeting out her life in term dates and tutorials, seminars and staff meetings. The replay of the front doorbell felt like another stage direction. One that she followed, scanning the worktops and table as she went. Had Stella left her phone? The girl's dark silhouette on the doorstep was visible through the bald sweet segments of the stained glass. Did you forget your... Her voice said to nothing. It wasn't Stella. Rachel chewed her lip, moulding it to the edge of her teeth, laced her fingers into a stirrup and cupped it to her forehead. As she let the door swing open and another hand close it, let two pairs of heavy, controlled footsteps follow her up the hall. Colin was munching another piece of shortbread. His face froze when he caught sight of hers. The house was silent. an audience would have heard a biscuit crumb drop as Rachel said, "Police."